Tom. What is this?
This or this?
That one.
This is a Jeep J10 V8 four-wheel drive. Came out of a super secret wrecking yard I can't talk about in California, and it was really cheap. And we're gonna see if Jamie can get it running for me today.
I'm sure that's gonna go great. Apparently this is a 1980 Jeep J10 pickup, so that means something. Now we're unloading it from the double car hauler using gravity and carefulness. Oh, hold on. Yeah, there you go. Locking hubs. Nice. Ford ignition. Also Ford 2-barrel carb, which is 100% guaranteed to leak gas if it works. It does kind of sort of roll nicely, so that's one good thing, I guess. Look at this. They earmarked it for Tom by spray painting his initials on it. That was nice. I don't know what you know about AMC, who owned a Jeep at the time this thing was produced. Tell you what I know, they were broke. And they bought parts anywhere and everywhere they could, as cheap as they possibly could. As mentioned, various Ford parts under the hood. These are actually GM-style Saginaw steering columns. This one has no keys, and it's broken. And we can't really steer this thing without doing really dumb stuff. Much like Chrysler did on their trucks and vans and such, AMC Jeep tried to change things as little as possible over the years. These gauges look very familiar to me, having been in a couple of these Jeeps before. I don't know how long they were the same, but I bet it was a while. This happens to be a J10 Laredo, which I'm sure means something. All right, this just might be the coolest thing ever. It's a combination AM, FM, CB radio. Chrysler actually had one of these optional for their Dodge trucks as well. Not that you ever see those. I do think this is original, judging by what I think is an AMC logo, and the way the mic is set up. This is a Uniden mic, but it's plugged into a fixed plug down here on the dashboard. It probably won't work, but it's really nifty. Look at this crap organizer behind the seat. Also the shag carpet. And a sliding rear window. There's also one going into the canopy. I don't know what it is with these guys and the goofy four-wheel drive levers, but this has one. The lack of keys is going to be a problem. Maybe I can remove the locking pin here. But then I still have to get the shifter unlocked somehow. I could pull the wheel and take the lock all the way out. Cruise control. Nice. Also one of those old school Kelsey Hayes hydraulic brake controllers. You're not going to believe this, but the brakes work. And I know it's not just a jammed up pedal because you can see the Kelsey Hayes thing reacting to brake pressure. They have a hydraulic line that goes to them. So if we can get this thing fired up, I guess we'll be doing donuts in the field pretty quick. Oh, there's also a goofy air conditioning system. I kind of broke that. It's not going to work, but it is cool. At some point in its history, this truck was loved and well cared for. Look at all the chrome. Apparently this gentleman was a Marine and handicapped and a Freemason. That's not a sticker. That's an actual emblem. This is not the first J10 pickup I've revived on the channel. The last one was orange, or maybe kind of brownish. It was also way rustier than this thing because it was from Washington. The floor was half made out of Bondo, and that one had a manual transmission. But the clutch was rusted solid. Still pretty fun though. I have high hopes for this one, but it has clearly seen some stuff. Because this is an AMC era Jeep, of course, here under the hood, we've got an AMC engine. This I assume is a 360 V8, although to be honest, I don't know that to be fact. It could be the smaller 304 if they put those in these. The emission sticker looks like this, so it's kind of hard to confirm. And I could look it up, but too much work. The engine does turn. I was barely able to do that by grabbing the belt up here on the power steering pulley and the alternator fan. I got it to nudge over like 1/4 of an inch, so that's pretty much all I need to know. Smog belt's missing because this pump, like every other smog pump, seized up 30 years ago. It's got an EGR valve that is not only still here, but still connected. The carburetor moves as well. That's excellent news. Tom's Wagoneer I got running on the channel like 2 years ago now also came from Northern California. Things don't age the same way they do here. For some reason their engines and carburetors still do stuff, and they have like metal in the lower areas of the body. Double mirrors. How do you like that red dirt this thing was buried in? Okay, seriously, the resemblance to that Wagoneer is uncanny. It's the same color, it's from the same part of the world, it smells similar inside, and the gas cap's missing. Signs of life. I hooked up a jump box, it didn't catch on fire, and we've got at least some lights that function. It's a good first step. I think this is actually a factory wheel. I like it. You know, there is a correct tool for removing steering wheels. I can't be bothered to go look for it. I'm going to carefully use a sledgehammer. What I'm doing is putting outward pressure on this as I shock the shaft here, and that will eventually have the effect of working the wheel toward me. That was already bent. I didn't do that. Woo! Obviously, you want to be careful doing that. You don't want to damage the threads, which incidentally were already damaged on this thing. Right there at the end, there's like a shard of metal hanging off. Anyway, now we need the special GM steering column lock tool. I've got 2 of those at home. I've got 0 of them here.
Should have mentioned that, huh?
Yeah, probably.
So they're not coming out without that?
Oh, it's coming out. Now, I can't stress this enough. There is a tool for this, and you can find it at every O'Reilly. Use the tool. I've got a pair of needle nose vice grips, a flathead, and the obligatory snap ring pliers. And sooner or later, this might actually work. But it's really dumb. Also, a third hand would make it a lot easier. Why? Knees are like hands. Worst car thief ever. This truck came from an estate / junkyard situation. Keys weren't a thing, among other stuff that's missing. Come on. This is super dumb, and I hate it. If I could just like bend it, that would be cool. Oh, actually, that's exactly what I'm doing. There we go. Oh, don't go back in your home. Oh, there's a big spring behind this. That plate and my face might have a meeting pretty quick here. Yes, maybe.
Pretty sure it's out of gas.
Shocking. Okay, now it's gonna fly into my face. So we'll do this. Yes. Yes. And now we'll carefully release. Nice. There's part of a monster can shoved in there. Why? Oh, there's also broken stuff. I didn't do that. Okay, removing more stuff. I found more of it. Weird. I've only just remembered that Wagoneer was missing keys too, and we were starting it with a flathead much like this one. Just weird. Great. Now it's blocked in by whatever the hell this thing is. Obviously, at this point, with the lock plate out, we can steer it. We still can't shift it. I could pop the ignition switch off of the column pretty easily, which, oh, someone already did. I'll be damned. But we still need to get this whole transmission shifter thing happening, so I'm going to keep going on this, see if I can get the lock out. I've got 2 out of 3 of the screws free from the turn signal switch, and the third one is stuck and wants to be stripped. That sucked. It involved beating it with a hammer and a flathead screwdriver, also known as a chisel, and almost ruining my favorite Snap-on Phillips. I got it. I slightly damaged the column a little bit back there, but it's free, and I'm pretty sure a new one would still lock into place. It's this little tab thingy that goes in a slot. Okay, I got the new key. Nice. The linkage is jamming on the frame, I think, because it was unhooked to put the transmission in neutral. This is definitely unlocked now, but it won't move, so I'm going to get under there and try and fix that. Managed to find the ignition switch screws. All the hardware that's missing from the column, which is totally loose, by the way, is sitting here, except for the big bolts, which, oh, yeah, there we go. Working ignition switch. Nice. I'm sure I've got the adjustment close. I usually go by where the crank position lines up. You can feel the springiness in that switch, so you kind of hold the switch in place, turn this to full crank, and then adjust it so it's roughly in the right spot. Fixed. I put the spring back in there and the turn signal cancel plate. Obviously, I left the lock plate out, so this will never be quite right. It's just a little loose. Bug? Or feature? Fixed. Not fixed. Why? I just had to break the horn switch slightly to make all this work. Oh, also I left that loose. Fasten seatbelts. Oh yeah, gonna be driving this in like 20 minutes.
Wow.
Okay, it doesn't crank over amazing. Could well be down to the connections from my jump box. We're gonna get an actual battery in here in a minute. But it turns over, it does the stuff that it's supposed to does, so that's a good sign. Hey, just for the record, these hurt more than the Mopar ones, and this hood does not open anywhere near far enough. Yikes. Today's revival is brought to you by donuts. Donuts. Donuts make me go nuts. No, you can't have any. We're under the J10 looking at cool stuff now. For one thing, we've got dual gigantic glass packs. AMCs have long been considered honorary Mopars. The most Mopar-y thing about this one, of course, 727 torque flight automatic transmission. Still has drive shafts, still has brakes and stuff. There's no fluids pouring out. Ignoring the little bit of pinion seal leak, of course. Evan had to pull this shifter linkage apart to get this thing moving, to load it, because the keys were gone. I've put it back together, and it's got a cotter pin in it. When we get rigs like this running, generally what we do is run an electric pump into the carburetor, normally through the mechanical pump, but apparently someone's been here already and done that, which is why this line is in place, and the line from the pump is disconnected. I'm gonna take the extra precautionary step of unhooking the fuel tank from the pump with a knife, and that way if the pump magically starts working, we won't cover this engine and whatever's in that tank. Most likely rainwater and tree parts, but still. The other potential issue is this return line to the tank. We don't want to send a bunch of our brand new fuel back there for obvious reasons. So I'll either cap this right here or, I don't know, maybe pinch this with some vice grips. Of course, all of this is a moot point if the stupid thing isn't going to run anyway. I don't have a spare DuraSpark box to test, so hopefully that one's good. Anyway, I'm going to do this. And we'll see if it makes any combustion noises. That was easy. All right, watch for flames. Come on. This thing does not crank nice at all. At all. Throttle. I don't think that's 8 happy cylinders. Maybe like 6 or 7. Wow, we might actually have an accelerator pump. Remember that thing I said about leaking gas? That was not a joke. Every single time with these cars. Plot twist. It actually runs awesome. Why am I hearing so much exhaust right here? All right, little smoky. Just a little. Yeah, might be a little rich. This is like all the gasoline we have in the world. That's not getting us far. We could probably bury it in the field though. Might as well try. That's gross. It's like an inch deep of crud over there. I actually think these Motorcraft 2 barrels are kind of decent carburetors. They seem to run okay, but 100% of them that I've had involvement with leaked from the accelerator pump. I'm only just now noticing there's a weep hole, and when this diaphragm starts leaking, the gas comes out of there, so you know it leaks. Of course, that gas pours all over your intake manifold, which gets hot, so this seems like a bad move. Anyway, I've jammed like a golf tee in that hole, and it seems to have improved things. Instead of capping that return fitting, I ended up bypassing the filter altogether. This is a nice clean fuel reservoir. I'm sure that's all fine. I did find use for that as a return spring hold down bracket. Hopefully this thing won't hang at full throttle now. On the Wagoneer revival way back, for some reason I remember trying to hook it up to the fan switch because there's a power connection right there. Fan switch in that truck didn't work. This one does. So we've got a fuel pump. Might want to check the timing. It's charging. It's got some amount of oil pressure. So the thing I know about torque flights is that 100% of them are low when they sit. But this one's not too low to move. This is too easy. In fact, the worst part of this entire operation is this goofy Volkswagen thing Tom parked in the way. Yeah, maybe check that fluid. It works though. Light me! And it wasn't that low. Fixed. Was this the previous fuel system? I'm not usually that guy, but this door was really obnoxious, so I fixed it. Possible? Yes. Fun? Not so much. So much better. This is just like the Chrysler piece, basically. I'm going to get the column mounted up here, so hopefully park on the transmission actually works, and steering it will be a whole lot easier. Even the floor mats say GM on them. Not that those are original equipment or anything. Now things are getting good. Adding some random amount of transmission fluid seems like a fine idea. That's kind of starting to look like something. I think that sticker is supposed to be like crappy wood grain or something. Maybe it's just brown. But does it four-wheel drive? Let's find out. I've always liked Jeeps. AMC Jeeps are interesting for various reasons, most of them related to cheapness. Still doesn't power steering. Oh no, I know what that is. U-joint. Yeah, I'll bet it's got a U-joint in the steering shaft and it's like lock solid. It doesn't move very nicely. Yeah, I'll guarantee you that's what that is. There's a steering shaft joint and it is lock solid. In between the parts where it's trying to move this way, the steering's easy, but it locks up on all of those little spots. This thing is definitely still leaking a small amount of gas out of the front of the carburetor. I'm smelling somewhat more than a small amount of gas, but I choose not to worry about that, at least for now. Speedometer's moving, it's kind of bouncing around. Gauge shows 40 psi oil pressure. Temperature gauge is starting to move. No bad news yet. It's too dry out here to be challenging in any way today. Whee! I think we need to bury this truck in some mud. Oh no! That didn't work at all. This is coming out everywhere, which explains the smell. I kind of wanted to drive it into the forest, but now I'm afraid it's going to burst into flames, and that would not be good. This situation needs to be rectified. The brakes work amazingly well. This really might burst into flames at any moment. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get any great off-road action in leaking that much gasoline. And I don't have a kit for this carb or anything either. Wishful thinking. It's a real bummer this canopy is damaged at the back here. It could probably be fixed carefully. Dude, how sweet is this truck? Yeah, it needs a hand wash, and a buff would be nice, and some paint thinner or something to get all that nonsense off of there, and a gas tank gone through and a cap to keep the water out of it, and a bunch of other stuff, but still cleaned up all right. I always thought these trucks were kind of cool. tough looking. I like the built-in visor detail on the cab roof. I've always liked this style of Jeep hood. And the fender flares, good stuff. The last tab on the California license plate says 2001. As good as this thing fired up, as well as the brakes work, it seems really unlikely that it hasn't run or driven in 24 years, but I don't know. I think that would get annoying after a while. The fancy chrome bumper has a Jeep sticker on it, manufactured by Flexengate, whoever that is. Oh, it's got air shocks. I'm sure this odometer reading means 152,659. You can see the numbers aren't straight in a line. There actually isn't all that much wear on the brake pedal, but things are pretty dingy. This thing has been well used, just not destroyed. AM works. How about CB? Dude. How do I don't know how this works. Standby feature, so you can listen to the AM or FM radio if it works. And then, when the CB receives a transmission, it kicks over to that. Oh, here we go. Dude, it's a 40 channel. Doesn't seem to actually work, but it was a nice idea. All right, that's pretty cool. Is that a purchase date? 10/21/79. I do wish I'd been able to test the four-wheel drive thoroughly. Although setting this thing on fire would have been great for YouTube views, I have a bit too much respect for it to do that. So we're just going to park it. In the future, I may well rebuild this carburetor and get this thing running a little bit better. There probably won't be a video for that, but it could happen. If you think you need this magnificent 1980 Jeep J10 four-wheel drive pickup in your life, contact Tom Hergert. His email address is tom@rocketresto.com. Because of how this vehicle was purchased, we don't have keys. We might include the vice grips for you. And we also lack ownership documentation. It shouldn't be an issue getting that, depending on where you live anyway. The price will certainly reflect this information. So drop him an email if you're interested. This thing just wants to live. Outstanding. Oh, Imperial. Remind me to get back to that. Anyway, as ever, thanks for watching. And remember, to be one, ask one, I guess. One down, one to go.